ladies, this is our 6-2 rotation, 6 players, 2 setters, and rotation defense. We are going to watch it the first time through with no commentary. I'm just going to play it for you, so that way you can watch it and see it without any disruption. And then the second time, I'm going to go through it slide by slide, and we will talk about some of the different things that is on there and that pertain to our type of play. A couple things to take into account is make sure you're paying attention to the key that you see on the page right now. This tells you what each player is, and it also is giving you the vocabulary that we're going to use for the different positions. For example, OH is outside hitter, and that means left side. MH, and sometimes it might say MB, would be middle hitter or middle blocker. OPP is opposite, which is what we normally call the right side player. We call them the opposite, right? And then there's a libero and a DS. In this video, you won't see a DS because we're not using a DS, and we are not going to be focusing on that. We're going to be focusing on the libero. But if you are wanting to be a DS, one thing to keep in mind is that a DS is used as a defensive specialist in the back row, right? A libero typically goes in for the middle, and that's what we're teaching our liberos. But somebody who wants to be a defensive specialist should know all of the back row positions. That being said, a libero should also, a lot of times liberos can go in for different positions, but they also, remember, are the quarterback of the back row. The other thing that you will see in this video is that I have labeled the front row players as L1, M1, OP1, and the back row players as M2, L2, and that is so you know front row versus back row. And typically that's kind of how, when you're looking at videos, when you're doing volleyball stuff, you'll notice that's a common thing. The only thing that might throw you off is the setter. Even though she's in back row, she's setter 1, and that's because she's the first setter in for the first 3 rotations. So this will also help you to recognize, I know a few of you are struggling with going from back row to front row, and hopefully this will help you to recognize what that looks like. All right, let's get started. One more thing before I start the slides. Remember that rotation 1 has 3 options for how we set that up. And so you are going to see rotation 1 3 times, and pay attention, especially to the serve side, to notice what the different positionings are of players. Okay, so that's all 6 rotations. Now we are going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to walk through these. Let me get back there. Takes a minute because of all the animation. Okay, so here is rotation 1, serve 1. Let's take a look at the serve side, or the serve receive side. That will always be on the left side. The serve side will always be on the right side when you're looking at the screen. If we look at the serve receive side, we see that they are set up in how they would be in rotation. Remember, rotation reads this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And also remember, when we set up in rotation, we are opposite our partner, right? Left and left, middle and middle, right and opposite. Okay, same thing is happening over on the serve side. The difference is we are now ready to play defense for the most part. Our left has gone to her base, 2 by 2. Our middle has gone to her base, middle, middle. And our server is going to serve and then go to her base, which is 3 by 2. The front row is a little bit different. Our middle sets at the net, and then people who need to move around our middle. In this case, our opposite is on the left side, and our left is on the right side, and we need to switch that. So they stack facing the net and get ready to switch. All right, let's look at the next thing that happens. So this is how our liberos switch. So when our liberos go in and out, I want to remind you that their entry and exit zone is from the 10-foot line to the end line. That is their entire entry and exit zone. They cannot go in between the net and the 10-foot line. If they do, it is an illegal entry and it counts as a substitution, and then we would have to give them the ball. So let's take one more look at that and what that looks like. This is our liberos going in and our lefts preparing for serve receive. So notice our libero goes in and our L1 pulls back into serve receive. Our L1 is a front row player, and so she has to make sure that she stays in front of the setter and in front of the libero. She also has to make sure that she doesn't cross the middle. The one thing I want you to remember about us stacking is when we stack, we're not going to have our setter stack right behind our left. We're going to have our setter come over and hug the sideline, staying in the court, but on the sideline. The reason why we do that is typically this serve receive is attacked by the other team, right, to get us out of system. And when the setter traditionally stood close behind the left, it got a little bit confusing, and sometimes the setter would get in way of the pass. This way, we have plenty of room. Our left is in a optimal position to pass, because remember, 85% of all passes in volleyball fall in this position, and we know that. The other thing is our setter is on the sideline, so any ball that comes at her and is on this side of her, she'll know it's out. And because they like to attack this serve area, a lot of girls serve out. And so having our setter way over here is a way to draw that ball over there. Okay, so after our liberos come in and our lefts are set up, next is the serve. I want you to make sure that you're paying attention to both sides to see the movement. Oh, before the serve, I forgot, we're not quite ready. Right? We have to stack our middle and our opposite on that 10-foot line to get them ready. Now pay attention that the opposites on the 10-foot line, the middle might be cantered a little bit in front, but they're still close together so they don't get in the way of the passer. Now comes the serve. So let's watch the serve again and the movement. Couple things. So when the ball is hit, our opposite and our left switch and go to base. Our setter follows the serve into the court and goes to her base. On this side, our setter goes straight to the net to her setting position, and our middle tracks the ball and comes over to middle to hit. One thing I will say, if you watch the flight of the ball on the serve, it flies over directly over the middle, right, as she's moving. That happens a lot. So our middles need to make sure they track the ball and they don't get in the path of the flight of the ball in order to mess up the serve. Next step would be the pass. And I want you to notice our L1, her second job after passing is hitting. Our opposite, her second job after passing is hitting. Both of those knew that they weren't passing the minute the ball went to the libero, so they could instantly move into the best position to hit. Our opposite is going to stay on the left and hit a left for one, and our L1 is going to stay on the right and hit a right for one. Okay, let's take a look at rotation 1, the second way that we can set it up. So if we are looking, we still have our stack here. Everything is correct. We have our left, middle, and left. So we know that our middle is not a setter. Let's look at what that looks like to bring the libero in again. Middle goes out, libero goes in. Now I want you to remember that it's between the end line and the 10-foot line. They can touch hands. They can not touch hands. They can talk. Middle can come out one way. Libero can go in another way. All of that is fine. The only things they have to make sure they do is 10-foot line and end line. So the different stack here is our opposite stays on the 10-foot line, hugging the sideline to call out balls. Our middle is going to pull up in front of the 10-foot line and take all of the little short balls that are here. And we'll use this when we have been are playing against a server who might be a shallow server and might be hitting some of those areas that we're struggling with. Serve comes over, movement happens, right? So again, let's watch what that looks like. On our serve side, we have our left and our opposite switching. We have our setter coming into base. On our passing side, our L1 instantly knows when the ball hits the net that the flight of the ball is going to our L2, so that she doesn't have to pass. She can come out and set to hit. Our opposite waits, make sure that she doesn't have to help on the pass, and then she goes out to hit. Next is the pass, and everybody is in a great position. All right, let's look at the third option that we have for our serve receive. Again, our libero is going to switch in with our middle, and we're going behind that 10-foot line. The next thing that happens is our libero is going to push over. Our setter is going to push up. In this one, our setter is stacking at the net with our left. Okay, so we'll do this when we notice that this stack back here we're having some trouble with and we keep getting burned. We'll have the setter push the left up. We'll push the libero over. We'll push the L2 back, and we'll drop the opposite back. So look at that one again, right? So what happened on this one? Our libero pushed over, our setter pushed up. So now we have a hole in the back row that we need to fill. So we're going to fill that in by pushing our left over and our opposite back. Our right is going to come off in front of the 10-foot line, but she's going to, if you notice, she didn't go straight back. She went at an angle, so she can cover a lot of the area of the court. Okay. Here comes our serve. And our pass. Now on this serve, if you notice, the only person on this side who has to do any quick movement is our setter, right? As soon as the ball serves, she's going to go here. As soon as the ball's touched. And then our middle is going to watch. And as the ball comes over, she's going to get in a position where she can hit. And same for our L2 and our L1 and our opposite. Our opposite is going to go right here to hit, and our L1 is just going to come right off to hit. That's rotation 1, serve receive 1. All right, rotation 2, serve receive 2. Now you will notice that our L1s are in the back row. Our L2s have now gone up to the front row. So our L1s are serving, L2s are front row. So this is the one to pay attention to. If you were the L1, you're now a back row player. If you were the L2, you're now a front row player. You are going to play 3 rotations in the front row and 3 rotations in the back row. So this is where you just have to know where you're at. All right, to set this one up, let's look and see what this looks like. Okay, let's take another look at that. For this one, remember, we want to push our setter as close to the net as we can get her. So we are going to push our opposite over, our middle back, our setter up, and now we have left libero left, which is what we want for passing. Our middle is going to be on the 10-foot line and as far back as she can get to, as far over to the sideline with staying within the court. Our opposite is going to push all the way up to the net. She can go up to middle's feet. However, she cannot cross middle. Our setter is going to push up as close to her setting position as she can. She's going to have to remember that the opposite has to be closer to the net, so she has to stay on this side of the opposite. Our L2 is our front row player, and all she did was pull straight back. Okay? Our L1 is our server. She's in the right position, and our libero's in the right position. Here comes the serve. Over on this side, before we do the serve, notice our L2 is in the right base position. She can go right there. Our middle gets pushed to the net, and our opposite is switching. Okay? In the back row, our setter can go right to base, and our libero can go right to base. Okay, let's take a look at that again, and let's watch that movement. Okay, so on the serving side, our L1 is the server. She's now a back row player. She serves and goes right to back row base. Our opposite on the serve is going to switch and go to her side. What you saw with the pass on the passing side was it went to our L2, right? And as it goes to our L2, our opposite and our middle get set up to hit. Notice how our middle lines up behind the 10-foot line to take an approach. And she lines up with the setter. So if the setter was way over here, our middle would be here. If the setter was way over here, our middle would be here. Our L2 passes and then goes out to hit. Okay, let's take a look at rotation 3. All right, and rotation 3, you'll notice our M1s have now rotated and they are now back row players, and our M2s are now front row players. We are going to have our libero serve, so our M1 is going to come out and our libero is going to go in. On the serving side, we now are going to put our middle, who just came to the front row at the net, and our left side is going to switch with them. If you have been paying attention, you will notice that the middle is always at the net and people are switching around. And it goes like this. The first time, both are switching. The second time, one is switching. The third time, one is switching. Okay? And it's just going to repeat. Both, one, one. Okay? In the back row, we also have to stack because our setter is on the opposite side of our left and they're not in the right positions for base. So how we are going to stack is we're going to pull this left side about 3 feet off the 10-foot line right in the middle of the court, and we're going to have our setter stand behind her. The reason why we do this is that our left can get any over balls that happen. So right as our serve goes over, let's say they pop it right back, our setter can then just go right to setting position because our left is going to pick that up. Okay, so now let's take a look at the serving side. They need to set up for serve receive. Our middle is in the front and our setter is in the far position. So now we have to set her up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to switch our liberos in and out. We always want to make sure our libero is in playing. I'm showing you that a lot because I want you to get the hang of what it looks like in and out behind that 10-foot line. Normally that libero would have already been in. Okay, our middle is going to push up to the net, hiding in the corner. Our setter is also going to push up, but our setter has to let the middle be closer to the net, so she has to be on this side of the middle. Our setter also has to make sure that her feet do not cross our L1. So she has to stack behind or line up behind the L1. Our L2 is going to go back and fill in for our L1. For our setter. Sorry about that. So let's take a look at that again, what that movement looks like. Notice, remember, our L2 is now in the second position in front row. But when we make the movement, she's pulling back for that setter. And again, left sides, if you had been paying attention, you would know that your rotation is pull back, pull back, pull back. Right? That's your three things when you're in front row. Pulling straight back, cross back, cross back. Straight back, cross back, cross back. Right? No matter if you're L1 or L2. Okay. The other thing that happens is our opposite. Our opposite comes to the 10-foot line, lines up on the sideline, so she has a better chance of calling balls in and out. Now we're all set. Let's watch the movement on the serving side when the ball is served. Okay, let's take a look at that again. So on the serving side, the switch happens here where the left goes here. And for here, the left is going to hang out for 1 second while the setter runs and the libero gets in. And then she's going to move over to her base. Now if we're looking at what happens on the serving side, when the ball is served, our L1 is going to be the passer. The minute that happens, our opposite goes out ready to hit and our L2 goes out ready to hit. Our middle tracks the ball as it's coming over and she gets ready to hit. Our setter makes the movement to her setter position. The last movement that you see, which I'll show you again, it's on the serve side. And I wanted you to see this, and I thought this was a good time to slow it down. When we are getting ready to play offense, we are going to go ahead after that passes to our setter. And if we're middle, we're going to go ahead and kind of set up in our base position. And if we're left back, we're going to set up in our base position. From here, we'll move to cover the ball. But that's just an easy way for us to really be ready for defense, right? Instead of hanging back where we were and watching the play happen, when we make that move as the setter's getting ready to set and we go to our base positions, we're in a better place if the ball goes over the net and then gets hit back over quickly. We're also in a much better place to cover. Okay? All right, let's take a look at serve receive 4. In serve receive 4, our setter is moving to the front row and our opposite is moving back to serve. So in this, we're running with 2 setters. That means we now need to make a substitution. So we need to bring in opposite number 2 and setter number 2. So we're going to pay attention to what that looks like. Again, like the libero zone, substitutions have their own zone also. So the substitution zone happens between the net and the 10-foot line. When there's 2 substitutions, the first one enters into the zone, the second one stays behind the 10-foot line right there waiting to enter into the zone. When the on the court, what it looks like is the first one who's subbing in or subbing out comes to the sideline and waits. The next one will stand behind her. Not right on top of her, give her a little bit of space. So this is what a sub is going to look like. So you notice official will read their number, read it to the score table, and then tell you to go, and you go immediately. The next subs come up, and then those subs go immediately. Same thing's going to happen on the serve receive side, right? Our setter would have already been in, but I wanted you to get used to seeing what this looks like, and our opposite 2 would have already been in. Now we are going to be setting up our serve receive. This should look familiar. Serve 4 is a repeat of serve 1. And again, we're just doing the first one where we stack. If you want to figure out the other 2, those are up there and you can look at them. If we look over here, like I said, once again, we are in the middle's in the middle, and both the left and the right have to switch. Remember, it's both, right? And then it's 1, and then it's 1. It repeats itself. Our left can go right to base, and our middle can go right to base. Our setter is going to serve, and she's going to run right into base. Here we go. All the same movements. All right, let's look at serve 5. Serve 5, our L2 has now gone back to the back row and is now a back row player again. Our L1 has entered into the front row and is a front row player again. So right now you have M2, opposite 2, and L1 in the front row. Let's see what this setup looks like. Again, for this one, the setter is pushing up to the net with opposite. Opposite is closer to the net than setter. Setter has to make sure that she stays between L2 and libero. And M2 is going to plant on the 10-foot line on the sideline. In this one, the only person who has to make a movement over here is opposite 2. She's switching by herself. Setter and libero can go right to base. Left will serve and then go to base. And here's what that looks like. So again, watching those movements of if I'm not passing, what's my next job? If I am passing, after that, what's my next job? And again, these are just repeats. So that was serve, receive 2, repeated. All right, now we are going to do rotation 6. In rotation 6, we are back to M2, rotating to the back row. Of course, our M2 is not going to be our server. Our libero is going to go in and serve. Our libero is already on the serve, receive side. We're setting it up. Our middle stacks at the net. Our setter can go up to L2's feet. Our opposite pulls off on the 10-foot line. And we are left, libero, ready to pass. In this one, we have the left and the opposite needing to switch. And we have the left and the setter needing to switch. So our setter is going to go over to the right side, and our left is going to wait just a few seconds to let middle get in and set, and then she'll make the move to her side. Here's what that looks like. Okay, one more time to watch that. Watch the middle on the serve receive side. As soon as the ball comes over, she would release a little bit earlier. But what I really wanted you to pay attention is, even though she was way far in this corner, she came all the way over to align with her setter so she could take the hit perfectly on. All right, those are all 6 rotations in a 6-2. I will do 5-2 in a couple weeks and put it up there because that's where we want to get probably is running a 5-1. I apologize. The next thing we're going to look at is coverage and defense. Okay, so the defense side is going to be the serving side, and the coverage side is going to be the serve receive side. And coverage means I'm covering the hitter. So we are in offense when we are in coverage, and then obviously we are in defense when we are on defense, right? That makes sense. Let's look at our positions. Remember that defense positions are base positions. So base means where you live. Right sides live on the right side. Middles live in the middle. And lefts live on the left. Okay, so left space is 2 by 2. And at the net. Middle space is middle, and middle front at the net. Right space is 3 by 2, and right front at the net. So they are now in base position, able to read the ball and the setter to know where to go. Over on the coverage side, our 3 hitters are back and ready to hit. And again, you'll see that our left and our libero have split the floor. Our left is closer to where she would be for base. Our libero is deeper like she would be for base. And they're ready for the set. So when the set happens, that's the movement. So let's watch that again. She's setting a left side. Here's the movement. Okay, let's talk about what happened. When the set goes left, right side or opposite is in charge of setting the block. The middle goes and to where the opposite tells her to go. Remember that you're setting the block off of your hitter's shoulder. Our back row players get into a position where they can see the hitter and the hitter can hit at them. So for left side, she's going to set off outside shoulder of our middle for a cross shot. This right here is where most of those hits happen. Right? So our left side is going to make sure that she can see the hitter can hit at her, and she's in a good position. We are hoping that our block is going to take away this from the hitter, right? That's our hope. Now our setter has to play defense first. She falls back and takes line. Notice she is not right on the sideline. She is in a little bit, and she's not super deep all the way back, right? But she's definitely not short at the 10-foot line. So she falls back to take line. Our libero is actually going to watch and read the hitter, and her coverage is from sideline to sideline, deep on this baseline, right? So for our liberos, I want you to think about baseline to about 2 feet in, and draw an imaginary rectangle that goes sideline to sideline, and I want you to think about how that is pretty much all of your coverage, right? Obviously, you're going to cover behind, and you're going to read that hitter's arm, and if she's swinging more to this way, then you'll come over this way. If she's swinging more to this way, then you're going to gravitate towards that way. Our left front is going to pull off. She's going to be about 1.5 feet inside of the 10-foot line, and she's going to be about where that circle, right near the top of that circle that happens on the floor by our net. The left's job is to take a hard angle shot, probably with her hands, and to pick up all of these tips, right? So she's really got to work hard. We're going to give this hitter all of this angle shot for right now. If we see that she can hit that and that's where she's swinging, we'll make adjustments. But for right now, we're going to give that to her. These are our 2 blockers. We want both of them blocking. The only time our opposite will not block is if she can read that it's a tip. Then she will immediately stay down and fall back. We'll let our left side our middle make an attempt to block a tip, even though it's hard. And our right side will be there to help pick up. Okay? So let's talk about coverage on this side. Let's look at that movement again with the set. Okay, so coverage is we are going to cover our hitter in case she gets blocked. So the first person to come in is the setter. She comes as close to the hitter as she can, and she's down low. When I say down low, then you should be under the net, right? Like low. Your body should be low. The next person that's going to come over is our middle. She's going to come directly over from where she was set and ready to hit. Our opposite is going to hang back about 3/4 of the way from the hitter, right? So that way she can pick up all of the things that kind of ding off this way. Our left back is going to come up and stay on the sideline. She could probably even hang back just a titch more if she wanted to, but look at the blockers and look at the blockers' hands, right? Because if the blockers are straight, the odds are the ball will reverberate back this way. The reason why we want her tucked on that sideline is a lot of times the blocks come this way. And if she's on that sideline with her foot, she'll know anything that's to that side of her is out. Our libero goes about halfway through the court, maybe a little bit more, knowing it's a left side, so leaning more towards the left side, but she's going to stay deep. Her job is going to be to chase down any loopy off the block hits, which happen, or anything that these players who are close to the hitter, right, because the hitter's going to cover herself too, and if it's a ball that's down here, it tends to get hit back, and our libero is there and ready. So this is coverage and defense for a left side outside hit. All right, again, coverage and defense. We always set up in the same way. It just depends on if you're front row or back row, right? But we're 2x2, middle, 3x2. Right, middle, left. Remember, blockers, we don't want to be really far away, right? We don't need to be all the way on the outside. When we're left side, we're going to set ourselves up right on or inside of where the setter is, then middle, then right. Our right side might be a little bit farther away than our middle, but we don't want our right side all the way out close to the antenna, right? We want our right side to stay in, and she will move with the hitter to be able to set the block. All right, so for this one, we're going to watch coverage and movement for a middle hit. Okay, So on a middle hit, we're watching what the movement looks like and the coverage looks like. Let's watch it one more time. Okay, let's talk about it. So the set for a middle is going to be close to the setter. We will play teams that they do not set that way, and then we will have to adjust our block to that. And on that case, we'll go a solo block with middle until we know we need to put up a double block. For this, our left is going to set the block because she started off on the inside of the setter, which gives her the advantage of already being ready for double blocking the middle. Our middle is going to come over, and they're going to read the middle hitter's arm to figure out which direction to set their block. Our opposite is going to pull off, just like they did on a strong side hit, right? They're going to pull off and come close to take the tips, right? Notice she's not right on the 10-foot line, and she's not right on the net. She's kind of cut it in half. The other thing we need to remember about this is if the middle is going to tip, our left side is going to stay down and not double block and do the same thing as our opposite and pull off. This is why you have to be paying attention and read your hitter. Because if you see a tip, you immediately want to come down and not jump. We'll let our middle stay there. For our back row players, our right side leaves base and falls diagonally back. She plants her foot on the sideline and lines herself up on the outside of the middle's arms, and she wants to be where the hitter can hit to her. Oh, sorry guys, hold on. So she wants to be where the middle can hit to her, right? If she lines up right here, that middle can't hit to her because our middle blocker's taking that away. So she wants to make sure. Same with our left. She's going to line up on the outside of our left shoulders, and she's going to be on the sideline with her foot planted on the sideline, and she wants to be where the middle can hit to her. Now, the reason why we plant our defense on the sidelines is because middles tend to swing this way. They tend to swing in that V, right and left. And so we want to make sure that we are in a position where we can call the ball in or out. Our middle is going to stay right in that middle section, and she's going to work the entire back row again, being mindful of any overhits of the block in this area. What we're counting on our block to do is to take out these hits in this area. Okay? And then if we're looking at coverage, let's go back. Okay, let's check out the coverage on that side. So when we are covering, and just so you know, I had to give a little space for this ball, but our premise is that the setter is setting straight up and straight down. So the ball won't be more than a foot away from her, 1.5 feet. So she will immediately take one step and get low. She's our first coverage. Here's our second coverage, is our hitter. They're going to hit, and when you hit, you should naturally come around the ball and land low, and you want to stay there and cover. The next person that's going to come in is our left side and our opposite, and they're going to come in tight. Our left side is going to be able to pick up anything that gets deflected this way, and our opposite's going to be able to pick up anything that gets deflected this way. Libero is going to stay deeper to take lots of the loopy balls, and our left is going to set up like it's a cross shot close to her base, but in where she can cover this section of the court. All right, let's take a look at our next coverage and defense. It always looks the same, right? We always set up on base, 3x2, 2x2, middle, left, front, middle, front, right, front. With hitting, we're all, if you notice, still kind of the same thing. Left sides are on the left, middle's in the middle, and rights are kind of on the right. Okay, so let's look at what this back set looks like. Okay, let's watch the defense and coverage again. Okay, so for this, our left is now the person that is setting the block. Remember, on the right side, we are going to set our block in more, not out more, right? Because usually they come and they're hitting this kind of a cross shot, and we're going to give them this line until they show us that they can hit that line, okay? Our left is going to drop back and take line, be about 2 to 3 feet off of, probably 3 feet off of the sideline, right? And deep. Our opposite is going to pull back off of the net and come up to about the top of that circle, which is about halfway through the net, right? Standing up at the top of the circle. They are responsible for all of the tips. Our middle is going to shift just a little bit towards the right, because that tends to be where those balls go, and we're hoping that our block takes out this ball. Again, our middle has all, oops, I'm sorry, girls. I keep clicking that, sorry. Our middle has all of the back court, right? Remember that little alleyway we created? Our setter drops back from her 3x2 position, and she sets up off of the middle blocker's shoulder, gets to where the hitter can hit at her, and takes a cross shot. This is where most of those go. Same as all of our other defense. If they read the hitter as being someone who's tipping, our left side player is immediately going to drop back, not jump to block, and our middle is going to solo block that or try to block that tip. All right, this time watch coverage on that right side. Set. Okay, so on this one, our setter back set, so she immediately turns around and follows the ball and gets low. Our right side, our opposite, after she hits, will get low to cover. Next, our middle comes in and she gets close. She's our second line of defense. Our left is going to pull off and come a little closer, and she will take any balls that are hit in this area, or balls that roll off the hands along the net. That happens a lot. On this, we switch it up a little bit because the libero tends to be the only one on this side because our setter is setting and it's happening on the right side. We are going to let our libero fall closer to be able to pick up those close, and our left is going to hang back and take those deep shots. Okay, now we're going to talk about free ball coverage, okay? So when you look at this, we are set up for defense, right? Left, middle, 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 right, middle, middle, 3x2, 2x2, right, right, middle, left. Our setter's ready to set. Our hitters are ready to hit. Our left side gets the ball, and she's going to free ball it over. I want you to watch what that looks like. Watch again. We're going to talk about the defense side first. All right, let's talk about this defense side. On the defense side, what you saw was the libero and the left split the court in half. This communication needs to happen about what you want that to look like. Maybe the libero wants to take a bigger chunk. Maybe the left wants to do, I'll get all the short, you get all the deep. However you do it, you have to split this court in half. It is the two of you in the back row. Our setter immediately releases and goes to the front row. Immediately. Setter will never play a free ball. Setter should be waiting at the net, right? You know it's a free ball. It's coming over. Get to the net. All three of our front row defensive players are going to now pull back to hit. Okay? Over on the free ball side, what you saw happen was the free ball went over, and immediately our front row hitters that were here jump on the net, ready to block. Our left goes 2x2, our middle, or our libero goes middle, middle, and our setter goes 3x2. So the exact opposites, right? They get off the net, ready to hit. We are already off the net, ready to hit. We get on and into defense. Let's watch that one more time so you're really clear what a free ball looks like. So where that free ball went is exactly where our setter was standing, and this is the premier area to free ball. because it is incredibly hard to pick up. And that's why we always say split the court. All right, girls, that is everything. That is our 6x2 offense, and that is coverage and defense, including a free ball. I hope that you spent a lot of time using this video. I know it's 45 minutes long, which is really long. Fast forward, stop, pause, use it however it works best for you. But it is there so you can learn rotations and feel more confident. I feel like the more you see it, hear it, and do it, you're going to understand it and get it. All right, you awesome volleyball nerds. I can't wait to see you at the next practice.